listen to fall to the floor.
Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. As some of you who've been watching my videos may know, I've been on a roll scouring eBay for interesting Chinese pens. My viewers have made a lot of excellent suggestions, so it's caused me to be more creative and more diligent. So in my searches I came across this pen, which I got a few days ago. Interesting features. There's that Parco Aero clip. Kind of looks like what we may find on a Bauer, maybe the 318. We have a nice big metal cap band here at the end, which seems to be very common now on a lot of the pens coming out of China. And we see a piston filler. As we go further down the barrel, we notice a completely clear piston assembly. That's unique, but it doesn't stop there. Unscrew cap, and we take a look at the nib and feed, and I'll give you a few moments to take this in. Sorry about that. Give you a few moments to take this in, and we have a completely clear demonstrator that looks like a Parker 51. So, and again, it doesn't stop there. The piston filler works like the Wing Sung 698, where you pull the cap out, hear it click, and then the piston will go up and down. Slides relatively easily. Not as easy as some of my other piston fillers that I've had, but still pretty good. And then as you move the cap back and forth, you try to find that little recess to have it snap back in place. As usual, doing things over the camera is never easy. There we go. So I may take this apart and adjust it so it'll snap in place when that piston is all the way up at the top, but you're still going to have a good decent fill there, probably like 1.5 mil or maybe a little bit more. Here's the eBay auction that I did. The price seems to be pretty consistent. The pen seems to come in 3 varieties. They got the clear one, you got a blue one, and you have one with a gold nib, which is interesting. That's one of the new features that have come on a lot of Chinese pens, is they're giving you an option of a gold nib for about 30 bucks more, which in the scheme of things is about as reasonably priced as you're going to get to move from a steel nib to a gold nib on a pen. I have not been motivated to try any of these. I've read some of the reviews, and they look interesting, but especially with a hooded nib like this, you're probably not going to gain much with a gold nib because that's not going to flex. That's one of the downsides to this design. It posts deeply and securely. It fits extremely well in the hand, and that section is nice because you can grip it almost anywhere. It's very small down near the nib, but that's probably not where you'd grip it because it'd be too close to the paper. So I just happen to have a Parker 51 that I've been working on, so I just wanted to show you those similarities. So this hood unscrews relatively easily. You notice there's an O-ring there. So now compare these like for like, and it's amazingly similar. You got a lot of those fins in the feed section. You got that hole. The nib on the Wing Sung is actually smaller than the one on the Parker 51 by quite a bit. But it is scarily similar. It's interesting. I wanted to give you a view of this before I inked it up, because once I ink it up, obviously the look is going to change quite a bit. But, I'm impressed. A piston fill Parker 51. Who would have ever guessed? So we're going to do some more work on this and then revisit it with some ink in it. As I played around with it before we put ink in it, I noticed one thing. You notice there's a mark there on that section piece. I need to look at that under a loop and see if that's a flaw or something that's designed. The other thing that I find scarily similar is when you unscrew this section, the ring here can come out quite easily. Clutch ring, a lot of people have referred it to, and it's very similar to the clutch ring on the Parker 51, which also easily comes apart once you disassemble the pen. The section, if you screw it completely tight, it's not going to line up perfectly with the nib, but it is really, really close. So just a slight turn. I don't think it's going to affect anything. It'll line up just right. So as I mentioned before, we're going to get this pen ready to write and see how that nib works. I don't have any high expectations on it. I hope it's smooth. It's obviously fine or extra fine, and it's going to perform well. The engraving in the cap band is very clear, very crisp. And yeah, made in China is interesting. This is also one of the few that I've seen that doesn't have any Chinese characters on it. Was this designed for a more global international market than just a Chinese market? Hard to tell. I've had some communications with Chinese manufacturers through my YouTube reviews, but sadly they can't watch the YouTube reviews. They're blocked in China. But and I've also had some travelers that have contacted me from Japan. So I've said, find some interesting pens. I think that would be great. I would love to show them to my viewers. I'm certain there's many pens that don't reach the international market in China. So it would be fun to see how they work. But this one is certainly one of the more interesting, unique ones that I've come across, and such a mashup of different design elements. There's a inner cap seal, which is also a very nice touch. Not all the pens have that, and it's just a slightly charcoal color, so it's pretty transparent. It'd be nice if it was perfectly clear like the rest of the pen, but maybe for the properties, I'm certain the materials of that inner cap liner is a different plastic, probably a little softer than the pen. The other thing I've come across in doing my work is a lot of the auctions are saying this is PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate, which is also the plastic supposedly used by Mont Blanc, called precious resin. Some of the cheaper pens are made out of styrene, which is a less expensive plastic. All of these are injection molded, so that's one of the things they share in common, mass production. And also you have dimensional stability, you have finish, and you also have resistance to scratches, nicks, and that type of thing. So that resin has upgraded it, and obviously the price has changed. This one's certainly not $2. It's a little bit, over 12 US dollars, but who knows, the price may change. The 698 turned out to be 16, and now that's dropped quite a bit too. And the article in the eBay auction refers to the 698, so we'll show you that. It didn't come in a box, which I think lets it be less expensive, but it had the same instructions that I found in my 698. These are certainly not international instructions. They're all in Chinese, but we have some visuals on the back side which shows the different parts, and that's not the nib, that's a different nib. It's not a hooded nib assembly in this design. So these are the instructions the 698 has, but the piston filler works the same. Little arrow showing you to pull up the cap before you activate the piston. You know how to fill it with ink, and it also shows you taking it apart, and it does come with that tube of silicone grease and what looks like a push converter, so that's always nice that they provide you with that. And since it self-disassembles, you don't need any tools for it. And also, it shows you on the cleaning thing, which I think is just excellent, that, here is some basic instructions for people that might be new to fountain pens. And this is a pen that I think certainly would appeal to a lot of different fountain pen users. As I study this pen more and more, I think there's other things we need to do with it before we ink it up. So we want to show you how easy it is to disassemble. This clutch ring on the Parker 51 is used because it's a slip cap, and this is part of the system that seals and keeps the cap in place. But obviously with the screw cap, it's not necessary, and you can feel that increased resistance as you tighten it up, which hopefully means that this assembly is up against that cap seal. So again, excellent engineering, excellent design. We showed you before this section unscrews. The other thing that's nice is this assembly just comes out. You know, so the O-ring stays with the barrel. And this is keyed, so as you know, if you try to put it in a way that's not appropriate, it won't go in until you get that right spot. There's some just slight facets there. So we're going to put that nib section back on. So, you know, changing zincs or whatever is going to be easy to disassemble this pen and clean it out thoroughly. So in the instructions, if you don't pull this out, you leave it connected to that ring and you turn it as though you were undoing it, it unscrews and comes out completely. Now, one of the things that's different at 698, I push the piston out through the front, but this one comes out through the rear. I think this is probably too small here for the piston to come out, so they've redesigned it a little bit. You know, so again, this all comes apart. I'm going to add some extra silicone grease to everything. You know, this ring seems to be pretty good in place, so that should be nice. The other thing at the bottom of this assembly, which manages the threads, you notice there's some facets on that ring which fit into the facets on the barrel. That's a design similar to the 698, which, again, I just really appreciate the engineering and the thought that went into all this stuff. You can see it goes into place. So we can screw this on. Obviously the threads don't engage until you're pretty well down on the piston, so then you can screw it into place. And what you want is you want it to tighten up with the piston all the way to the top. So I said it's one of the things I wanted to do. So if we unlook it, we can see we can go down, we can go up, and now as you go all the way up, now it looks like I'm stuck with that little thing. So that may be a little bit higher up than I had before, but if you bring it all the way up, then you're in between the notches and you can't push the cap in place. I'm certain playing around with it a little bit more I could get it up, but I'm not worried about a small difference in ink. You can see it snaps in place nicely. Well, over the camera, this is just a pain in the ass to do, but there we go. You just have to put the right pressure at the right angle in there. So that's how the pen comes apart and works. And again, engineering-wise, construction-wise, you know, everything fits together well. Everything looks great. So I'm very impressed. So we're going to disassemble it again, put some silicone and everything, reassemble it, and ink it up. Do a little comparison. Here's the Cali Art. Here's your Wing Sung 698. Here's your 618. Here's a Bauer 388, and there's a Jinhao 992. And all of these have some interesting similarities and things in common. I mentioned the Aero Clip. Both of these have a blind cap that pulls back before you can activate the piston. You can see how nice the clear piston assembly was and compared to the 698, which has the black pieces in there, which is more common. The 698 has a little bit more facets to it. They both have a similar kind of gray, smoky cap liner, where the Cali Art is totally clear. Get to see the ink color very nicely. And here's the Jinhao 692, which has that large cap band at the bottom. It's not exactly the same type, but it serves a similar function. You know, cap band at the end of the Bauer. Here the Wing Sung has an interesting one, which we think is slid down from the top. So that's where, you know, it's just amazing to see all the things that look similar between different branded pens, whether they're made in the same factory. You know, here we have a solid metal finial, and the other one has a insert to match the black pen. They're all about similar size. The 618 certainly holds its own, I think, as far as size goes. They all have a good feel to them. There's a lot of similarities between the way that the piston filler works. I was able to get almost a completely full fill and still lock down the cap after I took it apart for putting some silicone grease on everything. It runs very smooth. I think it'd be interesting to see this pen with silver trim instead of gold trim. I kind of like the clear and silver as a better color combination. Again, all of these have a good feel to them, but obviously the 992 is your $2 pen, and the rest of these piston fillers are not. Of course, the Bauer, I think, was like $3. But they've certainly come a long way, and I've learned to love this clip on the Caliart. I mean, I can slip this over anything. I have a place in my briefcase for putting pens, and these I have to lift up the clip to get it in there, and this one I just slide right in. So I'm happy with that design. And I also love the red seals on the piston. So as you can see, this is inked up, ready to go. I decided to use Iroshizuku ink. We show you that bottle. The ink really filled the feed. I'm impressed. That's not something I expected, but then of course I don't have any clear demonstrator Parker 51, so I don't have anything to compare it to. As you say, it's a pretty full. This was just down, up to get this fill. So that's a really good fill. The piston does work quite well in here, which is what I expected. So now we're going to take that nib and see it performance function. Viewers have commented on the TWSBI Eco versus some of the other Chinese piston fills. So here's the Wingsung 659, the Caliart, and my latest one, the 618. One of the things that they all have in common is you all have your blind cap to move the piston up and down. Obviously the two Wingsungs have the locking mechanisms. That's unique to them. As we look more closely at the piston itself, they all have two squeegees, O-rings. I don't know, you have to take them apart to really take a look at what they're at. I still love the orange one. It goes with that nice blue lapis ink. And this one I've gotten down a little bit because I still have to work on the feed to get the flow consistent. But they are very similar. You got your threads that holds everything together. It's more obvious here on the Eco and the Caliart and the 618 than it is on the 618 versus 698. So I thought you would find that interesting. So we have the Eco, then the 698, then the Caliart, and then finally the 618. And nice sunlight coming in, so it gives you a good view of this, and interesting to see the ink. And obviously the red ink in the TWSBI Eco is very nice. And one of the other things to keep in mind is the TWSBI Eco I've had for over a year. I haven't done anything to the ink, haven't flushed it or anything else, and it writes first time every time. I can set it for a month. It's my go-to red writer, and I use it fairly regularly. The pen is fairly light. It will give you those weights. The cap is fairly light, as you would expect. Most of the weight is in the barrel with the piston fill. It caps nice and secure, and it makes for a decent pen. I mean, it's I think more comfortable unposted. But for those who want to post, you can post, and it does change the balance a little bit. So you need to be aware of that. I mean, the first thing that I noticed is this is a wet, smooth writer. It's exceeding my expectations. This is as good as any nib I've had in a Parker 51. You're not going to get any line variation. That's to be expected. But, you know, part of an everyday pen is being able to use it day in and day out, have it be consistent, reliable. Without ink supply in here, this thing's going to last for a long time. As you can see, that's a decent patch of ink. So I'm very pleased. I don't see any downside. You know, when it's full of ink, you really don't notice that kind of little mark that showed up at the inside of that, and that's kind of a picky little thing, at least from my perspective. But it's a great pen. I mean, I just have been constantly now surprised about what is being produced over in China and their innovative engineering and breaking new grounds. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do a completely clear piston filler like this one. It's nice. I'm certain maybe some expensive pens were that, but when you're paying, you know, 12, 13 US dollars, this is good. So thank you for watching. You notice it started up right away after that long diatribe that I had. So may you have many great pen experiences. May you explore the wonderful worlds of pens, inks, and paper. Enjoy today and every day. Bye.